I'm going to do an additional video here to show you a tour of this advanced workflow. There's actually a surprisingly few amount of components here, but I wanted to show them to you. So the first thing that's new from, say, the basic topo workflow is that we are pulling in information from the Rhino file from our features layers to generate the features. And this is the geometry pipeline component, which will pull in any kind of geometry you want from any layer you want. So we are defining the features path layer, and in this case, any curves that we want to come in, and in this case, points. So if you just draw that bottom point and center line curve on that same layer, this will automatically come in anytime you make changes to that layer. And then this component creates the paths. And there's a path width and a path slope. We probably should add path width to the remote panel here as well. So you see what I did? I said right click, publish to remote panel. That puts it over here. And then I can actually edit and change the order of things. This is going to find the nearest point to any given center line. As I mentioned in the other video, you can change the slope of the path width. Similar things are going to happen for stairs. So the stairs are defined by a surface and then a rise. So the surface comes in from the geometry layers. The rise is defined as a piece of parameter. So if I publish this to the remote panel as well, you can see that. And then finally, we have our walls. And the walls are going to pull in curve geometries that are the front and the back, and then point geometries that are going to define the elevation of those points. The tolerances, the curve tolerance and spot tolerance, they define how close curves need to be in order to pair them up. This is an important number because if you have a bunch of like curves that are right next to each other and you set a number that's too high, they may begin to be overly inclusive of pulling all these curves together. So what you want to do is you want to have them be just the right distance so that two curves get paired according to that curve tolerance. The spot tolerance is always going to want to be smaller than the curve tolerance and also smaller than definitely than the width of the wall, because at least at the center of the wall, because the spot tolerance, you're using that tolerance to associate points with curves. Now, and then curves work exactly the same way as walls, basically exactly the same way, and had very similar settings here. We have some components here that help us to draw the path, to draw the stair, the walls, and the curbs. Preview / bake components that let you preview and bake. There's one button here to bake your topo features. And it will also update. So the bake name defines a so we're using the same text for our layer and our bake name. And the bake name is a way of saying, hey, like, has something been baked before with the same name? If it has, it will replace it. So that's nice because we can iterate and update our design. Now, once all of your features are created, we're pulling those together and merging them into one set of data that's then being used in addition to a geo set, which is where we gather our contours and spots and break lines from the topo geoset layer. And then here you can see this is where we refresh that topography. And we pull in the geoset and the features, and that creates a topo instance. just like we drew the stairs and the walls and the curbs, we're going to draw the topo using some different parameters for minimum division, maximum division of curves, like break lines and contours, and then an angle tolerance as well. Finally, we're going to visualize that topography and see the elevation of the topography. We are going to use our bake component here to bake the topography onto the topo mesh layer. And we are going to be cutting contours and doing the same thing with that onto the topo contours layer. And those buttons for baking are over here in the grasshopper panel on the side. I like to separate this grasshopper panel from other stuff so that I can have my layers and my grasshopper panel open at the same time. It helps with my workspace. And then some people like to put grasshopper over on one side like this, and then rhino on one side like that. But I find that it gets very limiting toward where you can, depending on your screen size, your workspace gets rather limited. So I like to make this large, and this window sits on top, and I can double click here and minimize and maximize that window as I need to. Hopefully with the workflow, this little mini workflow, you can use these controls and you won't have to be in Grasshopper too much.